Hello, and welcome to the Thinking Elixir podcast, where we cover the news of the community and learn from each other. My name is Mark Erickson.
And I'm David Bernheisel.
Let's jump into the news. First up, Expert, the new official Elixir LSP, has been released. Woo! Yes. So we've got a link to, the website really just points you to the GitHub. We've got a link to the GitHub, and in there, they have a set of instructions for how to install in all these different editors or how to build it locally. One is if you're using VS Code or Cursor AI, which is VS Code based. It was a little bit surprising for me, but you install Expert by installing Lexical, at least at the moment.
For now.
Yes. And so what it was is, they've really built on the core that Lexical had, and that's where the current latest is. And if you're looking at the GitHub, we were noticing that it's, there's no tagged releases right now. It's just nightly releases. But they described it as installing Expert in VS Code using Lexical as a stopgap until they create a dedicated Expert extension. So you'll need to configure it using the Expert executable instead.
I used it. Z users, you're in luck. It already supports it, so good for you. Just update, look for the instructions there. Basically, deny list the rest of the LSPs there, and just have Expert running, so you don't have multiples going. NeoVim was straightforward enough, right? So if I recall correctly, Lexical did this too, but Expert is using Burrito. So you've got an executable that just needs to be downloaded and put somewhere. Yep. And so that's the task for all these editors. You just got to go point to where that is. And in my case, I'm on Mac. I had to also... whatever the term is, you have to allow it in Mac security as well. It seems to be unsigned at the moment. So do that and you should be good to go. As far as my experience has been, it's been good and stable and just works, which is all you could ask for, really, right? So looking forward to it. Looking forward to, tagged releases and all.
Congrats to the team for actually getting it shipped, getting it to the point where it is ready. Because that's been a conglomeration effort, right? You got 3 different LSPs all merging and the individuals who are leading them all coming together to work on it. So that right there is just a testament to, I think, the goodwill and the goodness of the Elixir community, that it's not all about fiefdoms and like, my project wins. It's like, come together.
Yeah. All right. And there's more on that, but that's the big news. Expert is out. Go get it. Go try it out.
This episode is sponsored by Paraxial.io, the only security platform with true Elixir support. I sat down with founder Michael Lubis to ask some questions about how Elixir developers should think about security. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
Here's this week's question. Are your customers using AI to write code? And how does that factor in with what you think about with security and AI-generated code?
Yes, I would say many Paraxial customers are currently using AI to write code. It seems to come up in every new meeting that I take. People are justifiably concerned about the security of AI-generated code. I would say that using Paraxial.io and using a web framework like Phoenix are really the best things you can do. A lot of these sort of vibe-coded vulnerabilities that lead to incidents that you've seen or that you'll probably see more of in the future, I think it really occurs when people are just sort of freewheeling and they're going off the guardrails that their web framework gives them. For Paraxial customers, I think that the risk is definitely reduced because they're using Phoenix, they're using Paraxial.io. If you're just coding a web app with a random JavaScript framework that you know nothing about, I think that's much, much worse. But definitely something everyone's looking at. They want proof that security scans are being run and that the company security team and development team is on top of this.
All right, next up, Tidewave Web got its first update. So we got a couple of links that talk about it. One of them is at tidewave.ai. They got a blog post about it that talks about all the new things on here. Here's the big things. It now has an editor integration with one-click file opening and UI element inspection, which is pretty nice, right? So in that chat window over there, it'll say it's editing this file or something. And so now you can just click on that file and it'll open it up in your editor. It also allows for background notifications. So this is web-based, right? So you're going to have your tab open and it's going to ask for notifications in your tab. So you just click allow for your browser. And now it'll prompt you when the agent is done with something or needs your help for something, just like most of these agents are doing. And you can also now resize the chat panel if you need to see all that wall of text it's giving you. And then lastly, it's improving some system prompts for GPT-5. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Definitely a worthy update. Go get it. They do have a roadmap that is published now. So if you're curious to see what's coming up next, we've got a link over to there. But it's a project that seems to be managed in GitHub. So you can see, yeah, exactly what's in there. One thing that's in there that I don't think is released yet, but is marked completed, so maybe in the next release, is the ability to auto-approve tools instead of like all of the tools, right? You can approve like certain tools. For example, Tidewave is good for, having the ability to tell your browser to do stuff, to like check to see if it made the thing right, if it looks right, right? So I want to auto approve that. Like that's why I'm using Tidewave. But if you have other tools in there like editing files, maybe you want to not completely vibe code that stuff and you want to see what it's doing. So that ability to auto approve browser tools and then like not auto allow editing things, that seems to be coming up, but it doesn't look like it's out quite yet, at least at the time of recording. More about Tidewave Web. José Valim was interviewed with the focus on the Ruby integration in the community, so you can go check that out. We got a link to that interview. Pretty nice. I'm very thankful that Tidewave Web is not just Elixir only, but it's gonna like creep out into, and I say that in the best sense, right? Like creep with their shoulders and arms up into each of these other communities. Python's on the list according to their roadmap. Ruby's already out there. TypeScript, it's got to be better, TypeScript, but React in general going to be in there. So yeah, Tidewave is going to be a good tool for all of those coding sessions. And kind of related, but not about Tidewave necessarily, is that there is in this world, there is a new standard that's coming about, right? So we already know about MCP. These are the client's ability to use tools in a normalized way. But what about how other tools are going to use these clients? And so that's where ACP comes in. That's Agent Client Protocol. And this is being headed up by the folks at Zed for the editor. So they've introduced a new standardized protocol to communicate with coding agents, such as Claude Code, Gemini CLI, Codex, OpenAI's Codex maybe. And so they've announced it, and they've announced it with support out of the box with Google's Gemini CLI. So if you want to see how that's going, you can spin up Zed and see what that's like. They are working on Claude Code support now. I don't see it in the editor yet, but I can see source code that's dealing with it. So we got a link to that source code if you're interested, but it's pretty interesting. So once ACP is kind of adopted and out there, and hopefully Zed, the team at Zed is getting support from all these clients as well. These clients are also open source for what it's worth. Hopefully that means that Tidewave and other tools like Tidewave can also leverage the same protocol, which means that maybe Tidewave Web could talk to your client. And if you're using Claude Code and you've got a subscription there, maybe that means, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth here. We don't know. We'll see. Maybe that means that Tidewave Web would be able to use those subscriptions one day once ACP has matured enough to allow that to happen. All right. Well, that's all about Tidewave Web for today. But lots of good updates. Here's the short version again. Go update it. Go mix deps, update Tidewave, get those latest goodness, and go check out that change log with a short little video that describes everything.
Yep. And next up, Paulo Valente has a library called Handoff, and he recently released version 0.2.0. And so Handoff makes it easy to distribute function execution and define dependencies across nodes of the beam. So the GitHub project describes it as distributed graph execution in Elixir, saying that Handoff is a library for building and executing directed acyclic graphs, or DAGs, of functions in Elixir. So what is a DAG? You hear it a lot. It's like, oh, this is a DAG. It's like, okay, it's something with graphs. Okay, I understand graphs a little bit. So what is this? So really, I wanted to just kind of make this quite a bit clearer. And when I was digging into this, I was like, I get it now. This makes much more sense. So a directed acyclic graph, or DAG, is a structure of nodes, which we call points. And they're connected by edges, and we call those arrows, where each arrow shows a one-way relationship or dependency. And importantly, with this, you can never loop back to a previous node by following the arrows. So in this way, the graph never forms a cycle. It is always in one direction. So directed means the edges have a clear direction, like steps moving forward in a process. Acyclic means the graph contains no loops. Starting from any node and following arrows, you will never revisit the same node. So they're commonly used to model things like task dependencies, data processing flows, or event sequences where each step depends on the prior results, not future or repeated steps. So really, to sum it all down, DAGs are useful for organizing and executing complex chains of logic without risking endless loops or tangled dependencies. That's really what it comes down to. DAGs, I want something really complex, a complicated workflow, but I cannot risk it spinning in a loop. Okay, so that's what Paulo Valente has, a library that helps make that a whole lot easier. So some of the latest features in his version 0.2 release is a graph-based computation, define and execute complex computational graphs with dependencies, resource-aware scheduling, this is where the Beam side comes in, it's optimized computation based on available resources, so it's talking to other Beam nodes, and distributed execution, run graph workloads across multiple nodes, and fault tolerance, task retries on failure up to a configured maximum number of retries. So if you check out the GitHub README, there's a ton of code examples of what this actually looks like for running your Elixir code in this way. So I'm really interested to find out, Paulo, what have you been doing? What are you working on where this is like what you wanted to create and open source?
Yeah. Just to describe it a little bit, right? So you define a struct called function. So you're describing what your node on the graph is going to be, and it has a cost key on there, and the cost is like CPU 1, memory 1000, GPU 1, right? And so all these nodes could have different hardware on it, and so that just ensures that function is going to execute on the appropriate node that can handle it. And I'm sure this has a lot to do with NX. Paulo is a genius and does a lot with NX. So you can imagine, a business graph of like things to do, and one of those things to do is some computer vision things that needs a little GPU, a little extra GPU help there, and we just need to wait for that little bit of work to happen on one of those nodes, and then it can come back together on some other node. Pretty incredible. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about this. Also, side note, I'm fairly certain I've made a DAG that has a loop in it. Maybe I shouldn't have. I mean, not that it was a loop forever, but it was about generating variations, and so I needed to go through each variation, and so there was a loop in there to do that. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, maybe it wasn't a acyclic at that point.
Yeah, so it's a DCG. made it cyclic.
All right, moving on. Live Debugger version 0.4 was released. We got links to the announcement here. What is Live Debugger? It's a really cool library that you probably ought to have installed. If you're using Phoenix and Phoenix Live View, Live Debugger is going to really help with things. This is now a Chrome extension as well. And so this can inspect, the state changes of your live views, and you can inspect things as it changes. You can kind of rewind too, if I recall. And so what does 0.4 include? So here's the new things. It has a new inspect mode, which is pretty cool. Phrase searching in callback traces. So you can turn on tracing when you need to, and then search it. And then lastly, smoother debugging, right, across reloads and errors. If you want to see what that means, they've included a short video that demos each of those features in action. So you can go check out the links and go watch the video and understand this a little bit more. This is one of those tools in the tool belt of things that you probably should just default install, right? Oben and Live Debugger and Live Dashboard, like just install it. A week or two ago, I think we talked about one called, what was it?
That was Lotus.
That's
Lotus
the one.
And Lotus Web, yeah.
Yeah, that's new. Anyway, so that's among the tool belt. You should just install Live Debuggers in the mix. So go check out the update.
And next up, the support for Elixir in various LLMs is looking really good. I'd say even exceptional. Thomas Silva was on a research tangent about what languages tend to perform better with code generation, and he was surprised by the results, and he shared them online. So he was assuming, what I was assuming too, is that Python would generally be the king of best LLM support for generating Python code, mainly because Python is so much connected to LLMs in terms of all the libraries and everything for running them and training them. But that's not actually the case. So Thomas found a project that's, we got a link to it. It's a GitHub project by Tencent. So Tencent is a Chinese company that's really a conglomerate that operates social media platforms such as WeChat and QQ and other things. But they have a GitHub repo where they have a number of different open source projects. And this project is called Autocode Benchmark. And the whole purpose of this benchmark, they describe it saying, previous benchmarks mainly focus on Python, with multilingual benchmarks like Full Stack Bench and McEval suffering from imbalanced language and category distribution and overly simple difficulty. So like these just aren't sufficiently hard problems that they're testing the LLMs against,
for code, right?
Yes, for what types of code and how complex the code is. So in contrast, Autocode Bench is a high difficulty multilingual benchmark with balanced language and category distributions to better assess models' multilingual capabilities. So their whole focus is testing existing models. How well do they support multiple languages? So that's what they're really after. But what we get to discover in their results is how well each one of these models does for a specific language. So we can look at just Elixir and what are the best coding models for Elixir. And then you can compare that to other coding languages. And this is where it gets super fun. So one, David, as you pointed out, you were just glad to see that Elixir was even in the mix.
Oh, yeah. Elixir's in the mix. I love it. They got a long list in here. All the top ones you'd expect, right? Think of all the ones you hear on the Stack Overflow survey every year, right? You got Python, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript in there, Rust, Ruby, Kotlin's in there, C#, Shell is in there too. That's necessary. Racket is in there. I didn't expect to see that one, but it's in there. R, Ruby, Scala, and Swift. Dart's in there as well. So lots of them. Go. Can't forget Go. And oh my gosh, I wasn't even looking for this. I'm so glad this exists. You can have your suspicions, right? Like you can have your suspicions and then just be like, this is anecdotal. I've had a good time vibe coding things, and it gets it well. So this graph is going to tell you how well it gets these coding challenges, right? And not just challenges. It's just like, just make a thing, right? And make it well. This is the benchmark. Elixir scored the top. It's like by far, it got it the best. So there's both reasoning mode and non-reasoning mode. And across the board, it seems like the Elixir language, here's the note here, pass 1, the percentage of times that these different models correctly solved the problem. So they call this the current upper bound. And so this is the value that we're looking at here. This is all percentages. And so like Elixir's in the 82 percentile range. And then if you compare that to like Python, you'd expect it to be really good at that, right? It's like 42% over there.
Yes.
So it's like half the time it's going to get Python correct versus Elixir. So like 2 times as many times it's like Elixir is going to be more correct when asked for solving a problem than it is going to be in Python. Mind blown.
And they list their current upper bound, which is, they describe that as like giving the correct answer across all models. And in that one, Elixir scored the highest among all of them at 97.5. Now, this isn't percents, this is just a score, but higher is better. Where Python is a 63 and TypeScript is 61. Remember, Elixir was 97.5. So it was like the highest. But yeah, it's been my personal experience. Anecdotally, I could say when I'm using something like Cursor AI and I have different model choices available to me, when I choose Claude Sonnet 4, I get a better result than if I do Gemini or something like that. And looking at this, it totally backs it up.
Yeah. So this is broken out by language and by model. And the TLDR is that, the Claude models perform really generally better, really across the board for all these languages. And Elixir is at the top for sure. Even across, these languages. Now there's hits and misses every once in a while. But this graph does not include GPT-5. I'm guessing they did the research right before that was released, but it does include GPT 4.0 or 4.1 and GPT 4.0 and O3 mini and O3 high, which is their reasoning models. DeepSeek's also in there. Gemini's in there, 2.5 Flash. So the common ones, right? So is worthwhile. These aren't just other models that you're probably not using. No, these are the popular ones. Grok's in there too. I don't know who uses that, but yeah, this is great news.
Yes, because like the fear was, the stuff that's out there, the most code is out there is for TypeScript or React or something like that. And that's what the AI is going to be best at generating. But that's not necessarily the case. It may have a lot of samples and it may recommend it. If you don't give it any constraints and say, build me something like this, and you don't even tell it what language, it might choose React or something like that. But it generates better, more correct code with Elixir. And so there's been some theories on the social media as to why this might be. So we don't really know, right? This is just some ideas, right? One of the theories that I saw was that the quality of Elixir code that's in the public domain is of a higher quality, so the training examples are better. Okay, that could be, right? My theory that I kind of got from José when we were talking about something with him is that Elixir is a functional programming language, and it's easier to write a single function that has defined inputs and outputs than it is to reason about object-oriented programming, where you have a whole class and you have state that is mutated all throughout the class. That's a different thing. So it's harder for a human and an LLM to reason about something with a lot of state mutation going on, where it's happening all over the place with inheritance and across files and stuff like that. That Elixir is functional, and that's easier to reason about. It's easier for me to reason about. Apparently, it might be easier for LLMs too. So I loved it. Yep.
I know that some of these languages are multi-paradigm, so you can do functional in them, like Scala's on the list.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Elixir is like the only one on this list that is purely functional. And I know there's asterisks on all that, but yeah, that could definitely be it. It's probably both, right? Both ends.
Yeah. What I'm super grateful for is this research has been shared. And on the Autocode Benchmark GitHub project, they have samples and code for how to run the benchmarks yourself. That's really cool. I just think it's great to be able to put some numbers behind the feelings that you might have. And when new models come out, new benchmarks might come out, and people might find it's appropriate to switch to a different model. But what I thought was cool is some of these models are self-hostable, right? I can run some of these DeepSeek models locally, and I can see how good will this do? Is this worth me running it locally? That's cool.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Elixir 8280, looking for DeepSeek R1 is 77. It's still a pull. It pulls out, that in C# for DeepSeek R1 pulls away from the rest of them by far, like by 20 points. So if you're looking for a local hostable one, that seems to be the best one. There's also Qwen, 235 billion parameters thinking one. That one's also really good. All right, the rest of it on your own. Go figure it out. But we got links. This is great news. Yeah, this is really great news. All right, changing focus for a second. So ElixirConf US just happened. Hope everyone had a good time there. I had a virtual ticket, so I wasn't able to see anyone in person, but some of the talks were incredible. We got a special shout out to Herman Valesco. His talk was just amazing. Got to see it. He compared a bunch of mocking libraries, but it was just also so fun to listen to. So what are we talking about today about ElixirConf? Well, the next one, I don't have a date yet, but the next one is in Chicago. Oh, so excited. Yes, thank you. Get away from Orlando. Not that I live around here. It's not that I hate Orlando specifically. It's just we've been down here for years. So, and I love Chicago. Chicago is a very beautiful city. So I'm very excited to see what it's going to be like next year. I'm going to make an effort to make it to that one. So that's ElixirConf US. No dates yet. We'll let you know when that's announced, but next one will be in Chicago. And all right, last episode, or maybe it was two weeks ago, we talked about in the news, we talked about an OIDC implementation that was extracted out of Livebook. We got that wrong, so this is a little bit of errata here. So that was work done by Jonatan Männchen, and I believe it was also sponsored by the Erlang Ecosystem Foundation. So Livebook wasn't really involved at all in that part. So we had contributed that work over to Livebook inappropriately. That was actually done by Jonatan Männchen of the security working group of the Erlang Ecosystem Foundation.
Glad we could set the record straight there. And last up, just a heads up, this is kind of stepping back from the Elixir stuff that's specific to Elixir. Right now, we're just talking about the tech programming development industry in general. Just a heads up that there's a new type of developer dependency attack vector. And as an example of this, it happened for the first time to a popular NPM package that was compromised by attackers. It was updated to run a post-install script that was stealing secrets. That's not necessarily anything new. Like, that can happen. Thankfully, the project was caught, and it had only been up for about 5 hours before it was taken down. But in that short window, thousands of developers may have been exposed. So the project is called NX, and that's very confusing for the Elixir community because NX is an entirely different thing.
Yeah,
so
not ours.
So this is an NPM package. It's downloaded 4 million times per week, right? So it's a very popular package. It's used by a lot of systems. But what was unique about this particular breach, the script is a prompt that runs the user's installation of Claude code. And because of that, it avoids the normal detection tools that analyze code for malware because it's just an AI prompt. And so that doesn't look like malware. So it didn't get caught is what was unique about this. So this is kind of introducing the idea of being vibe pwned. An unfortunate name, I think.
Eesh.
Yes. So we got some links to where this, some different resources for learning about this. And there's also one of the resources has a link to a GitHub search query that you can run and just change the organization ID to your org, and it will see if this happened to you. Because what it was doing is it would like fork a private project, like a private repo, into another named repo that would become public so that they could exfiltrate like the code and the secrets that are in the code and get things out like that. One of the checks is checking your GitHub repositories to see if you have any of these special repos because they follow a special naming convention. So, okay, what did the malware do? The malicious version of the NPM package would steal cryptocurrency wallets, GitHub and NPM tokens, which is login and authentication tokens, SSH keys, and environment secrets. So that's getting access to production environments. But this is the very first case that's documenting malware weaponizing AI CLI tools for reconnaissance and data exfiltration. Yes, so it was using things like Claude, Gemini, and Q to aid in reconnaissance and data exfiltration. That's a new thing. It's unfortunate. Whenever something new happens, new comes along, someone's going to figure out, how can I weaponize this?
On the same thread, not about this particular vulnerability, but AI has expanded into our browsers, right? So you got Perplexity out there. I'm running DIA. Yeah, AI forward for sure. So Anthropic has published a post about securing interactions with the browser. So they're going to take a different approach, right? We won't go into that too much, but it does have some security thoughts on like how do you sandbox these things well? How do you protect yourself, here? And so their current approach is, which is not released for the public yet, is how they're going to get Claude into your Chrome browser or Chrome compatible browser, and they're just going to go through the extension route instead of like Perplexity or Dia's case where it's just the whole thing. It's got it all built in, because who knows what that security model is, or at least I don't. And the sandbox security model has been very tried and true so far, largely speaking, for the Chrome-based browsers out there. So if you're curious about that, you can go read up on their blog post. Yeah, it's just got me thinking though. Like 1Password has an SSH like hook or agent, right? It can kind of take the place of your SSH like keychain or something. I forget the exact word, but basically, whenever you need to do an SSH session, you have to authenticate with 1Pass to do that, and then it just goes right through, right? But if they're stealing your SSH keys, I don't guess that helps in this case, right? I guess that wouldn't really matter. That would only matter if your computer is initiating the SSH session out to it, right? Yeah. Not just taking the keys so that some other computer can SSH into whatever their target is. Yeah.
So what was unfortunate is some of these security posts that we have included are talking about the secondary attacks, which is once they've exfiltrated these secrets and environment keys and things like that, then those production environments were being attacked and broken into, and stealing data or ransomware, whatever is going to happen at that point. But yeah, so it's just another vector to be aware of.
popular reaction on the socials about this
Yeah.
is to not run these things with your full system privileges. Run these things in a container. That seems like a good idea. Yeah, that definitely seems like a good idea.
Yep. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us next time on Thinking Elixir.